Hello, good evening, and welcome to Monkeys with Fire. How's everybody tonight? Hope you're all well. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. So you join me again tonight for another role-playing game deep dive. Which game are we going to take a look at this evening? We are going to explore Dune, Adventures in the Imperium from MODIPHIUS Entertainment. Yes, with the recent Dune movie. Well, it's maybe 2 years ago now, isn't it? Gosh, time flies. But we do have the second part coming out this year. So this is very, very timely for us to go and take a look at Frank Herbert's masterpiece in role-playing game form. Now, of course, with any of these deep dives, I do like to point out that I am no role-playing game expert. I played role-play games back in my college days, the typical types that you would expect back in the 80s and 90s, so Dungeons and Dragons, of course, being the main one. And it's been a while since I have played, so I am enjoying taking a look through this series of live streams at all the variety of different role-playing game systems that are out there now and how they have changed quite considerably over the many years. Good evening, Rogo. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. How are you? Hope you're well. As I say, we are just about to start our exploration of Dune, Adventures in the Imperium. I'm going solo tonight, so so anything could happen tonight. Anything could happen. All right, let's jump to the table. Let's take a look at the physical products that we have here. All right, so here we go. What do we have? We have, this is the Agents of Dune role-playing campaign experience box. And then we have the core rules here. So let's focus on this initially. Let's just move that out of the way. We have a hefty book. There's a nice matte finish to it. Having explored many of these games now, I'm starting to appreciate the quality that MODIPHIUS provides in their books. 330 pages we have to go through. It's a big, heavy book, but it is wonderfully laid out, very clear. We have a decent font size for those who may find smaller text to be a little harder to read. We've got some wonderful artwork within, which we'll be able to enjoy when we switch to taking a look at the digital version, because of course all of MODIPHIUS's titles, there is the physical book, and then there is the digital version, so that you can have it on maybe your tablet or on your phone. And of course it has a very helpful contents that you are able to search through and find pertinent information nice and easily. Now, this, of course, is MODIPHIUS's 2D20 system. We have been taking a look at a number of games that use that system. We took a look last week at Achtung Cthulhu. Prior to that, it was the Fallout role-playing game. And previous to that, we took a look at John Carter from Mars. All of those videos, those live streams are available on the channel's YouTube page. Go and take a look at those if they are of interest. So there is a lot of information here, and this is something that we're starting to find with the Modiphius role-playing systems. They are not shy on the amount of information they provide. There is a lot, but we will take a look at that in greater detail in a moment. My goodness. So as you can see, it's all very clear, nicely presented. Oh, I like this. We'll look at this in a second. A nice overview of the core book. Some wonderful imagery. Yep, very nice. Very nice indeed. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the core book initially, and then we'll come back and we'll unbox Agents of Dune and take a look at the quality of the handouts that are part of this game. Because everybody likes a nice map, don't they? And maybe there's something in there for us to take a look at. Alright, let's jump to the digital version in that case. Alright, here we go. And I can set this up in front of me so I can follow along. Okay. I mean, first question out to chat. Are you familiar with Dune? Which version of the movie have you seen? How many of the books have you read? The role-playing game, I believe, is focused primarily on the first book, which of course is the most famous, though I believe Frank Herbert wrote several books in the Dune series, and then I believe his son and a ghostwriter wrote considerably more recently. So I guess it depends on what your knowledge of the Dune universe is like. I did watch the 1980s movie. Mesmerized by the concept of those giant sandworms. So then we have our contents, and what we are looking at here, we effectively have 9 chapters worth of introduction, background, universe info, creating our house and our character, the core rules of the game, various how to deal with conflicts, to which there are many types of conflict within the game, but some of them are very interesting on how conflict is dealt with, because it's not all about dueling and fighting with weapons. Conflicts come in many forms. Assets, and then a section of course on games mastering, allies and adversaries, of which there will be many, and then it does have a mini adventure at the end just to get you into the swing of things. And just looking at the credits there, I can see Kevin J. Anderson. I think he was the other writer, along with Brian Herbert. Who, and of course then the Herbert Properties team. So this book will have been worked through by the Frank Herbert estate to make sure that it is accurate. Which of course, that's what we're looking for. All right, let's jump on in and into the introduction, and of course we see one of those iconic sandworms. I am looking forward to the second part of the Denis Villeneuve movie, which I believe is happening at the end of this year. So this is an interesting little introduction here. We begin in the year 10191 of the Imperial calendar, a time of feudal politics, deadly assassins, and political rivalry in a universe where humanity is spread out across thousands of planets. With this core rulebook, you and your friends can take on the roles of agents of a powerful noble house, looking to carve out a place in the complex society of the Imperium. That's the thing with this, with the Dune sort of world, and I'm talking about the galaxy and everything, is that it's vast. It is absolutely huge, though of course a lot of it is centered around the world of Arrakis, which of course is Dune. We'll come to that in a moment. So as we saw before, we've got this wonderful core book overview, just giving you a little taste of what each of the chapters have to offer. I think this is very nice. I like this. And then, what is Dune? This is a great overview on, if you're not familiar with the books and then the films, then it tells you all about it. So the original novel Dune follows the life of a young man, Paul Atreides, heir to a powerful house of Atreides. But Paul is no ordinary young man, however. While groomed and trained from birth to inherit his family's estate and join the galactic ruling class, he is also potentially a prophesied messiah, the chosen one, inheritor of a vast and quasi-mystic set of abilities that have been engineered for thousands of years by the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood, who have been pulling the strings throughout the Imperium for thousands of years. See, I never realised all of this when I watched the movie, but I was only a kid. So that's why I am enjoying this now, to be able to look at the world of Dune with obviously adult eyes and see just how much depth there is. And I'm hoping that it might inspire me to go and actually start reading the books to learn more. So the universe of Dune. In the time of the Imperium, humanity has spread out so far into the universe that Earth is a distant memory. The known universe of the human empire is ruled by the, here we go, I'm going to get these names wrong, Padishah, Emperor Shaddam. Is that the fourth? I think it is. Yeah, let's go with the fourth. And he is the descendant of an imperial line of House Corino, which has ruled the universe for tens of thousands of years. He is a descendant of an imperial line, yeah. However, with humanity spread out across the galaxy, the Emperor cannot rule without the support of many other noble major houses, who form a legislative body called the Lanzarat. These are equally ancient lineages, control whole planets and even planetary systems, and rule them as they please, as long as imperial law is at least tacitly upheld. Under the major houses is a complex feudal hierarchy of minor houses, jockeying for power in the hope that they may one day rise to control a planet of their own. See, again, I find it fascinating. The dynamics are very, very different compared to other game universes. We are dealing with whole planets, whole systems here. And surely that allows your imagination to just, well, there's no limit to it, is there? So, oh, too far, here we go. So again, we have lots of information here talking about Mentats, the sisterhood of the Bene Gesserit, the navigators who are able to fold space, the Spacing Guild, the League of Nobles, so your player characters are about to enter this world as the primary agents of one of the houses of the Imperium. How powerful that house is depends on the choices of the group, and the more power it has, the more enemies it accrues. The more resources it has, the more the others will try to take from it. The player characters might serve their house in different ways. They might be part of a noble family, a Bene Gesserit advisor, a lethal duelist, cunning spy master, or even one of the elusive desert-dwelling Fremen. The characters have been sent by their house to the desert planet Arrakis, more commonly called Dune by its natives. There they can advance both their house and their own prestige, if they can survive. So it's a good introduction there. And then we go to the eras of play. And hopefully you can see here that this actually does set things up so you can see where the various books written by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson, and then subsequently the books by Frank Herbert himself, where they fit into the various eras. Dune is in the third era of the Imperium. So this is the universe Paul Atreides and his father are born into. A deadly and paranoid place of 1,000-year-old traditions and cold war between houses. But as you can see, the universe of Dune has expanded far beyond that. To the point where we have Paul's son. Spoilers. But you've had plenty of time to read the books by now. So, yes, we offer this rather broad description of over 20,000 years of history. My goodness. So, you could be playing at any point within that. It gives us an example of play, which I always find very handy. Helps set the scene somewhat. And then we move on to Chapter 2 in the Known Universe. Roger, you've watched the movie but not read the books. Which movie have you watched? Was it the recent one from Denis Villeneuve? Or was it I think, was it 1984? And I want to say David Lynch. But chat, you can correct me on that one. Am I right? The first one. So you're talking about the mid-80s movie. So we're into Chapter 2, looking at the known universe. The history of humanity. Which again, this is what I really enjoy about role-playing games, is just all of the information. This, if you are a fan of Dune, then a role-playing game of it is the perfect accompaniment to your fandom, because everything is here. There's so much to geek out on. It's great. So, looking at the old empire, it expands, the time of Titans, the rise of Cymex, thinking machines. Again, there's just so many names I'm going to get wrong here. So I'm just going to pass them by. What's that? The dawn of the Butler in Jihad? It's Butler Iron. Butler Iron. Oh, yeah, I'm going to ruin everything tonight. And great schools are founded. Again, this is condensing all the information from the books, but you can get yourself up to speed. The companies. I think there was more than a 13% chance that I was ruining that, Roger. The Great Convention. We got the Secret of the Spacing Guild. See, again, that was the thing with the 1980s movie, didn't it? It had a sizable introduction with, I remember it was a lady basically telling us all the history. It's interesting, you know, it's one of the few movies where it starts off with a piece of dialogue to basically, we've got so much to explain to you. Again, it's 10,000 years of history we've got to kind of condense. So we get to the Imperium of today, and then again, this is fascinating. So we have 11,000 BG before Guild and AG is after Guild. And so in fact, this... Gosh. So... we have, here we go, 1,381 BG. Yanshup Askoko, a scholar in service to Shakad the Wise, discovers the spice melange on Arrakis. Arrakis is evaluated for future colonization and planetary value for the Empire. It's interesting that this timeline, it starts at 11,000 BG. It's obviously thousands and thousands of years before, you know, past the point of where our current society is not even mentioned. And already... so 11,000 BG, the space age begins, and there is a revelation about how religion operates. So yes, it would seem that that would be, once we start going out into the stars, that's where this this timeline begins. And then right at the very end here, at 175, Paul Atreides is born. You know, it's great to be able to look through and to see all this wonderful detail. So, of course, spice is the most important resource in the known universe. So one thing that makes the existing power structure within the Imperium possible, the spice melange, an organic substance which bestows longevity, enhanced awareness, and allows persistent vision of the future to come. Despite its beneficial qualities, the spice is a double-edged sword. It is also highly addictive, and withdrawal can often be deadly. This miraculous substance is found in only one place in the entire universe, the planet Arrakis. This desert world, seemingly barren save for its gigantic sandworms and the fierce nomadic native inhabitants called the Fremen, is the most important place in the universe. I'm sure it will actually talk about... Yeah, here we go. Next page. The Spacing Guild. And so it does, of course, talk about faster than light travel. And it is the Spacing Guild, the navigators, who use spice to be able to safely navigate vessels through space. So this is why spice, of course, is so important to everybody. So it allows starships to take near instantaneous journeys between star systems, enabling communication and trade and keeping the Imperium whole and intact. And so again, lots and lots of information. Talking about the noble houses, commoners, slaves. So it may be 10,000 years into the future, but unfortunately they have not managed to yes, however, through slavery is technically tolerated in the Imperium, it is viewed by most of the Landsrat as repugnant. So some houses have adopted slavery, but not all. Yes, House Harkonnen, which of course is the major house in conflict with House Atreides in the Dune book. So we have a section then on technology, looking at personal armaments, household tech, information tech. Again, there's so much is revealed in the movie, and of course what's cool about the movies is it never actually explains anything. It's just there, and it means it's just part of every day, isn't it? We all sort of accept cars, and they just sort of present with flying hovercrafts, which we just accept. I'm talking about the great schools, faith and religion. And then the Landsred, which is what keeps the Imperium as a whole. This is where all planets fall under the jurisdiction of either a major or minor houses. And then there's a caste system within that. There is just so much information here. And then it goes into even more detail of the houses of the Imperium. And actually looking at the different houses. As you can see, you've got House Atreides there. Leto Atreides. Combined Honnet Ober Advanced Mercantiles. Wow. Again, this is all new to me. But it's great that they just have so much information. Board of Directors. Gosh. Then going on to Spacing Guild, going through its origins. Talking about the navigators. And spice mutation. The Order of the Mentats. So, what is a Mentat? A Mentat is one of a class of Imperial citizens trained for supreme accomplishments of logic and deduction. They are essentially human computers that apply their ethics in a neutral manner along with unbiased logic to solve problems and formulate plans. Roger saying there's a lot of detail in this game. There is, yes. As we've experienced with other titles, if you are a fan, even just a small amount of the subject matter, a role-playing game is a great place to just explore and enjoy further your fandom of that subject. So if you do like Dune, yeah, highly recommend it. Because you are going to love all of this stuff. So, and of course, as I'm reading through this, I'm thinking of the different characters in the movie. So I remember the Mentat. I certainly remember this next character. So the Bene Gesserit, the Sisterhood. Because if this was Paul's mother, wasn't it? And then I think, was it the Mother Superior comes along to test him? Which I do remember that scene in both movies, which scared me somewhat. And then we have a medical school, because there is a house doctor, isn't there? So the great thing about it is that you could be reading all this, and this will give you all the background for potentially your character. We have the Swordmasters. And then I want to say it. Oh gosh. So in the original Dune movie, it was Patrick Stewart. And in the new one, I think is it Jason Momoa? Is it Gunny? I want to say Gunny. Might be getting the name wrong. Which is Paul Atreides' friend and sort of mentor, but as far as the dueling. And so then we move on to planets, noticeable planets within the Imperium. Of course, starting with Arrakis. So, tells us which noble house currently is in control of. Primary exports, languages that are spoken on the planet, locations of interest. See, again, this is where this game is very different to others. Typically, another game might be focusing in on various cities or countries, and in this, you know, we're going to have whole planets. So it goes into a lot of detail. Fauna, sandworms, the various cities of Arrakis. Then detailing politics on the planet. Looking at the Fremen, the natives of the world. Then, of course, looking at, because of course it is a desert planet, so the still suit is the black suits that is able to regulate their heat temperature and reprocess moisture to give them water. Oh my goodness. There's just so much information. So there we go. We got at least, it was a good 5 pages, no, even 7 pages on Arrakis there. And we have then Caladan, Noble House Atreides. Oh. And so actually, yeah, so Arrakis is going to have a fair amount of detail on it. And then we actually look at some of the other major planets. This is quite cool. I like this. And of course it makes me think of the... wasn't there a PC game where you went mining on Arrakis? I'm sure there was. Kaitain, Noble House, Corino. And the great thing about it, of course, is that as much as there are many, many worlds here in the book, I imagine there's no reason why you couldn't create your own world. We have got an entire universe to explore. That's wonderful. I like that. Okay. So, this is something, again, very unique to this game world, is creating your house. So in Dune Adventures in the Imperium, the player characters all serve a single noble house. So before we create those characters, it's vital to determine a few details about the style, agenda, and attributes of the house they serve. The house is obviously of great importance to the players, as it determines what type of characters they can each create and what they might aspire to. However, it's equally important to the games master, as it determines the general level of the campaign and what sort of adventures the players want to encounter. So the nature of the house should be a group decision between players and the games master. So this is really, really interesting. Good evening, Gerard Monster. Welcome. You've only read the first half of the book, as in the novel or this core role-playing game. Roger, Dune was one of the first floppy disk games converted to CD format. Oh, was it? Okay. I do. There have been multiple Dune based games. Well, that's the thing. It's such an iconic sci-fi property, I guess, isn't it? You read the novel, Jared. Yes. Well, this role-playing game system, we looked at it earlier. It covers all of the novels that Frank Herbert wrote, and then the novels written by his son. So there is so much information here that it's staggering. So what do we have? We're going to have to create a house. And so this, again, when we come to go through the games in a bit more detail on later shows, we will come to Dune and we will create a group house, and then we will create our characters. So we have 4 different types of houses: a nascent house, a house minor, house major, and a great house. And obviously, depending on the size, the power of your house will determine what level of threat they may be under. The great houses, of course, there's always somebody else looking to overthrow them. Then we have our domains. So depending on its type, each house begins with 1 or more domains. So let's say we were a minor house. We would have a primary domain and a secondary domain. Okay. So then, what we can do is we then look at our areas of expertise. The various domains listed below are grouped into areas of expertise for the sake of simplicity. They are further subdivided to help to offer ideas what precise domains might be found. So each area of expertise is divided into the following sections: machinery, produce, expertise, workers, and understanding. Okay. So we have a variety of different domains here: artistic, espionage, farming, industrial, canly, military, political, religion, and science. So let's just take a look at the example here. So this is a house minor, has two domains, one primary and one secondary. So for a primary domain, the player group decides to have an artistic area of expertise, and they choose poetry as produce, making their home world a haven for the arts, where those accepted into their poetry groups are renowned for creating the most incredible verses in the universe. For the secondary domain, the group decides to branch out into assassination and picks assassins from workers from the Canley area of expertise. The group decides that many of their poetry schools are actually a front for training assassins who are also taught to kill with a certain poetic elegance. How fantastic is that? So that's quite cool. I like that. It's going to be good that the players will be working together to decide on how their home world is set up. I think that's great, and it's a wonderful little story already in there. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so that's determining our house. So then we go to our home world. So what's the dominant form of weather on the world? Is it hot? Is it a little cold? Is it always raining? So if it's always raining, it's the world of the United Kingdom. What sort of inhabitation is there? Is it mainly cities, towns, or isolated farms? What is the crime rate like? Is the place peaceful or violent? How soft or hard is the house on crime? How content are the people? Do they respect their ruler or labour in fear of them? Or how much the house's wealth is put into the community? Do they keep it for themselves, or are their holdings full of public works and support systems? So let's continue with the book's example here. So this is House Molay, controls a string of large islands on the home planet of their house major. The islands have a variety of features that might inspire the poets who travel around them. The people are generally happy, but the islands are sparsely populated with fishing villages and only one main town where the noble of the House Molay lives. Hidden away on several islands are their secret assassin schools disguised as more fishing villages. I like this. I like this a lot. We then have banners and arms. The group decides that the emblem of the House Molay is a scroll representing poetry, and their colours are white and red. And so then house traits. So each house begins with a trait for any primary domain it has. This trait is the same as the area of expertise for that domain. So here we go. House Molay has a single primary domain. It's well-regarded poetry. So it has the trait artistic. As the house hides its assassination training camps and is looking to create a new name for itself, the group decides the house has been plotting for some time, gaining the trait secretive. as its reputation house trait. Okay. And so we move on to roles. So while the player characters are important agents of their house, many of them may intend to distinguish themselves and eventually take a more leading role. So, wow, okay, there are so many here. So these are the roles for the player characters. And we go into more detail on this, but basically what happens, there is a house sheet at the back of the book. And this is where we make a note of which player is taking on which role within the house. So we have a ruler. We have the consort to the ruler. We have an advisor, a chief physician, a counselor, envoy, heir, marshal, scholar, spymaster, swordmaster, treasurer, and war master. So there's quite a few, well, here we go. So Roger and Gerard, what would you be on our house? Which of these would you be? These are all very interesting. I'm not quite sure what I might be. Treasurer, says Roger. The treasurer is the main financial officer of the house. They monitor the state of the house's funds, oversee tax collection, and handle other financial matters that are part of running the house. A good treasurer can see a lot of detail in the accounts, as discrepancies will reveal corruption, poor management, and a host of other problems. They are also good at ensuring the right investments improve the house's financial portfolio. Many work hand in hand with the Coam advisors to maintain the house's position within the landsred. You want to get your hands on the money. I think the idea as treasurer is that you are using said money for the benefit of the house and of the people. So you might see it might be all around you. I don't think much of it is yours. Okay. We then move on to enemies. Finally, we would be remiss not to mention that your house will have enemies. Oh, Gerard's just gone in. The physician appeals, but I'm rubbish at any role-playing other than fighter types, which makes swordmaster types more realistic. Okay, well, you can be the swordmaster for sure. So we have various rolling charts here for us to be able to determine our enemy. As a minor house, we would have one minor house enemy, and then we can look at, we roll for the level of hatred they have for our house, what their reason is. That's quite cool. I like this. This is very cool. So they can dislike us and have no reason. No reason why. We just don't like you. Don't like you at all. So here we go. We do have an example. As a house minor, House Mollet has only one enemy, which they decide to call House Akuri. In determining the degree of hatred, the players roll a 12, meaning that the houses loathe each other. Next, they determine the reason for this hatred and roll a 9, indicating a difference in morality. As House Molay are both poets and assassins, the players decide their enemy house is quite religious. After some deliberation, the players and games master decide that House Arcuri has uncovered rumours about House Molay training assassins, and so believe them to not only a force for artistic decadence, but corruption as well. That's cool. I like how that... Again, it's nice that this part of the game... I can imagine there's a game 0 in playing a game of Dune, where the players and the games master sit around and spend their time creating the characters, creating the houses, creating the world, setting it up within the greater universe, building up all this sort of little history. As a poetry house, settling fights with a dance-off like West Side Story. I'm not quite sure it would go that way, Gerard, but I like it. I like it. Or a rap battle, yes. So, okay, so now we've created our house and we've created the house's enemy. We then go on to creating our characters. So this is looking, this particular chapter is looking at main characters, supporting characters, various NPCs. So when creating a character, the first step is to devise a concept for the character. Who are they? What do they do? So you may want to look through the archetypes described later in the chapter, take an idea from one of the concepts below, or select something else inspired by the universe of Dune. So some sample concepts: a scion of the house, a Mentat advisor, a Bene Gesserit agent, a swordsmaster, a physician, a smuggler, a Fremen warrior, or a house officer. Now, some of this, again, because we've been looking at a lot of Modiphius Entertainment's 2D20 system games, a lot of this is going to seem quite familiar, unique for Dune, but, you know, understanding the various skills and traits. So what do we have? We basically have the number of skills: battle, communicate, discipline, move, understand. We have our skill ratings from 4 to 8. 4 meaning you lack training or knowledge in this field, and 8 being that you are a master of that skill, renowned for your expertise. And then we have a number of focuses for each of these skills. My goodness, there's a lot there, isn't there? So battle focuses, communicate focuses. Again, these are quite a few of these are well, quite a lot of these are very unique for this game. Acting, deceit, innuendo, composure, grace, worm rider. Only the Fremen character class can have that. Then we have drives. A character's inner life motivates and defines their actions. A character's drives thus shape the things they do and how successful they are at doing those things. We have duty, faith, justice, power, and truth. And so we have drive statements. I seek to uncover the many secrets of the universe. The power to destroy a thing is the absolute control over it. Duty is a sharp blade. And then we have ambitions, the ability to form goals beyond the immediate. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a understanding there, and it breaks it down. So, character creation summary. Thank you for dropping by, Gerard. Have a wonderful day. Hope to see you again soon. So, step 1 was our concept. Step 2 is archetype. Step 3 is skills. Step 4 is focuses. Step 5, talents. Step 6, drive and drive statements. Step 7 is assets. And step 8 is finishing touches. And again, this very concisely just lays it all out so you know exactly what you're doing. In fact, actually, that seems quite easy, doesn't it? Consider your character idea, select a faction template if applicable, and record its trait if you do. Choose or adapt an archetype from the list and record its trait. Assign a rating to each skill. The primary skill listed for your archetype is rated 6. The secondary skill is rated 5. The other 3 skills are rated 4. Add 5 more points among your skills to a maximum of 8. Wow, that's just so easy to create your skills. Choose 4 focuses and assign them to your skills. At least 1 should be assigned to your primary skill. Your archetype will offer suggestions you may take if you wish. Choose 3 talents. Each archetype suggests 1 talent. Rank the 5 drives in order of importance, assigning the ratings 8, 7, 6, 5 and 4 among them, with 8 being the most important. And assign a drive statement to the 3 highest drives. That's pretty quick. I think creating our characters will be a very a painless task, I believe. So here we go. We do have our different archetypes here. So we have the, well, here we go. Let's do the example, because that always helps. I'm liking these examples. So Claire and her group are creating characters who will be agents of House Morlaix. Claire likes the idea of playing a Bene Gesserit sister, but doesn't want to be too tied to the sisterhood. So she decides to play a noble woman who was trained by the sisterhood as a girl. Her character, Kara, will be a deadly fighter, will also one of the potential heirs to House Morlaix. Now she has a concept, Claire needs to choose a professional trait for Kara, and so picks noble. While Kara is a noble woman, her Bene Gesserit training means she needs to choose a faction template for Bene Gesserit. Claire records the bonus trait Bene Gesserit and notes that she will have to pick the talent, oh no, Prana Bindu conditioning. Prana Bindu. Prana Bindu conditioning. What on earth is that? But it is a mandatory talent as part of the Bene Gesserit sister. So we then have the Fremen, we have the Mentat, We have the Space Guild Agent and the Souk Doctor. We then go into step 2, the archetypes. Okay, so Claire looks through the suggested archetypes for Bene Gesserit, but decides to pick Commander as Kara's archetype instead. She likes the idea of Kara as a social character with fighting skills. So the Commander has primary skill of communicate, secondary skill of battle. And then we have, wow, my goodness, we got a whole load of archetypes to go through. We got War Masters, Socialites, Disciples, Adepts, and then Academics. So there's actually a lot. I was initially saying that this is going to be relatively quick, and no, there's a considerable amount for you to take on board. As I say, I do believe there's going to be a game 0 involved. We then look at the skills. So each of the characters in Dune has 5 skills as described in the previous chapter: battle, communicate, discipline, move, and understand. And so this is where we allocate our points between 4 to 8. Primary skill is rated at a 6, secondary at a 5, and the other skills are rated at a 4. We then have our focuses. Each starting character has 4 focuses. Game 0, Amberden. What I'm referring to is, I don't know if you caught an earlier part of the tonight's stream. You basically create your house and your world, and then your characters, which, given the depth that this goes to, that could be an entire session in its own right, getting all of that in place before you even start to play the game. So it's that first session of setting up your house, where your characters fit in within that noble house. Because you are actually all working together. You're all part of the same house. So it's a collaborative experience with the Games Master to start off with. We have our talents and drives. And then finally, assets and finishing touches. Ending off with obviously your character's name. So Kara's highest drive is faith, and so Claire decides she believes in destiny. Kara wants to gain power for her house, but also wishes to become a premier assassin. Her dream is to appear to be an ordinary noblewoman, but create a reputation as a master assassin so that nobody knows the real identity of. Wow. Well, that's an interesting character. Oh, fantastic. And so here we go. So in fact, going through all of these steps, we actually do have the character sheet for Kara Mollet, who's a commander. So as you can see, as a character sheet, it is quite sparse, really, isn't it? So her talents are hyper-awareness, masterful innuendo, and Paranda Bindu conditioning. I need to find out what that is. I really do. Gonna have to find out what that is. In fact, oh, so here we go. We're on to talents. So we can find out what we're going to find out what it is now. Let's just let's work our way through. Aha. So lots of different talents here that your character can have, but the one we are looking for is a Bene Gesserit talent. Prana Bindu conditioning. You have absolute control over your body. Every muscle and every nerve is under your control, and you have even mastered your own body chemistry and metabolism. Whenever you attempt to move or a discipline test which relies on your control of your body, you may re-roll a single d20. You can perfectly control your breathing, heart rate, and your internal organs, including the ability to choose whether to conceive a child and to determine the child's physical and genetic traits. That is some serious conditioning. But of course, I guess if you've read the book, then you'll know how that sort of plays into it. Wow, okay. So I guess, you know, practical. You could, if you are out on the planet of Arrakis and the sun is beating down, then having this particular talent potentially would mean that you might survive longer out in the desert. But there are a lot of traits to choose from here. So creation in play. The other method of creating a main character is somewhat simpler, but does require that you have a greater understanding of who you want your character to be and what you want them to do before you begin playing. Okay, so this is a quick play guide to be able to create a character. I guess this is going to be more useful, as it says here, for supporting characters. Okay. And so ultimately, once we get to the end of our story, campaign or mission, we have our character advancement with advancement points. It's been about 50 years since I first read Dune, says Amberden. Yes, well, the role-playing game covers all the books by Frank Herbert, and it also covers the books done by his son, and I think it's Kevin J. Anderson, who is a notable science fiction writer. I think as we looked at right at the beginning, there's 20,000 years of Dune history to work your way through. Oh, too far. There we go. So we come to then chapter 5, the rules. And this, of course, is detailing the 2d20 system. which is at the core of the game. And we've explained what the 2d20 system is like in previous games. So whenever your character takes an action and there is doubt of the outcome, failure is a possibility, or you might result, or the result might depend on how well you succeed. The Games Master will ask you to make a skill test. When you make a skill test, the Games Master tells you how difficult the skill test is, expressed as a difficulty. So select one of your skills and one of your drives and add their scores together to make a target number. Then you roll 2 d20s. Each die roll that equals 2 or under that target number is a success. Each die that rolls a 1 is a critical success, worth 2 successes. If your character has a focus that would help in that action, then any die that rolls equal to or less than their skill is a critical success instead. As I say, we've encountered this in many other of the MODIPHIUS 2d20 system games, so it should be quite familiar by now. And so it is just a case of rolling successes, and of course depending on how difficult the actual task is, will determine how many successes you need to roll. And of course, we always use lock picking as an example. So overcoming a complex lock would require 2 successes. Epic. Overcoming a complex lock in a hurry without the right tools during a battle. And so it just guides us through the procedure and gives examples on then how to improve the odds. So there is momentum in the game. And you are able to acquire momentum. Momentum is like a bonus if you got multiple successes that you didn't require. And you can keep them as momentum. You can use momentum to make things easier for you at later points. So momentum can be spent to buy additional dice before a skill test. You can buy up to 3 d20s. And there we go, it starts telling us a little bit more about momentum and saving your momentum, giving examples then of its usage. Of course, momentum that you gain, if you roll poorly, as in rolling a 20, then you cause a complication. A complication effectively is the Games Master's form of momentum. This is where they're able to make things a little bit more challenging for you. Excuse me a moment. So, variety of different examples of complications. And also, the Games Master is able to increase the range of potential complications depending on the circumstances when the test is being rolled. And so, as players have momentum, the Games Master has threat, which works in the same way. So, Games Master can spend their threat to increase complications or buy d20s. Again, it goes through. I've gone too far. There we go. Oh. Oh, it's going all over the place. It's got a mind of its own. Suspending threat, and then we got determinations. These are a way to just help give your character that added edge. So in contests, characters opposing you roll first. Their number of successes becomes the difficulty you need to roll against. Once you've rolled, you roll to see if you can beat them. So these are opposed tests and extended tasks. It's actually the rolling element of these games is very, very easy. Once you've done it a few times, I think you won't be any difficulty. So, looking at conflict. So conflict is inevitable in the Imperium. So conflicts add an additional layer to gameplay and are used to provide greater detail to specific situations when desired. Conflicts cover a multitude of different forms of contest, from physical fights to intrigue and assassination. These rules assume a few concepts that differ from many other role-playing games and allow us to use the same system to cover a multitude of conflict styles. The conflict is not just physical combat, and any method to defeat an enemy with any tool can be a conflict. Conflicts may take many different forms and can occur on many different scales. The following forms of common conflicts are discussed. So we've got dueling, skirmishes, warfare, espionage, intrigue. So again, this is all very unique. Zones of conflict, action orders. This will take a little bit of reading just to get used to, just get your mind around it. As I said, it's not just a case of fighting hand to hand. So straight away, forms of conflict, we go on to dueling. Of course, dueling is a prominent part, isn't it, in the certainly in the movie. Again, as we've experienced, there's so much detail. So we then go from dueling and all that's detail into then skirmishes. Again, I find this fascinating because it is very different. Espionage, spies and security. And then ultimately to large scale warfare. And then again, this is something that's sort of quite unique. Intrigue. Battles of status, wits, Words and secrets. Intrigue is an inevitable part of power and politics, with status, influence, and more tangible resources at stake. Everybody who takes part in intrigue has something to gain and everything to lose. Intrigue is a social conflict and so bears some similarity with espionage, but in truth it is closer to warfare, using generally intangible rather than tangible assets. Like warfare, it should have an objective, which might be a control of an area, of an intangible zone, an area of politics, a favour or deal, or just the capitulation of an enemy. I think this is going to be really interesting to actually look through and understand, because that is this. Both intrigue and espionage are quite unique, aren't they? This is not something you typically find in role-playing games, but of course is absolutely at the core of the Dune book series. So I think that's going to be interesting. Okay. Assets. And this is not necessarily going to be just swords, is it? Or guns. Tools and resources. And then we get to actual personal assets. So we do have range weapons, melee weapons, armor and dress, personal shields. I do always like looking through all of the equipments that you can kind of get for a game. But these are very different. Frem kits. Still suits. Oh, there we go. A thumper. A simple device used to summon sandworms on Arrakis. So these were all personal assets. But then we've got warfare assets. Wow. Okay, so we have fortresses and bunkers. And then we have our soldiers. I'm getting that feel of that PC game here now. Having to control huge armies. We have transports, personnel characters. There we go. An ornithopter. That's what they were called, wasn't it? Ornithopters, like a dragonfly. Artillery and anti-aircraft. Spice harvesters. Ah, okay. And so we then have assets for espionage, dark guns, poison tooth, drugs. So as you can see, these conflicts, yeah, everything, it's broken down into the different areas. This is really interesting. Bene Gesserit coded dots. This is really nice. I like this. Intrigue assets. Raw materials. Blackmail. Stolen files. It's just so much. So this is all for your intrigue conflicts. It's wonderful, really great. So, chapter 8, games mastering, going through to aid you as being a games master. Short games versus long campaigns. Creating your adventure. Giving you an idea of what your story hook might be. How to set up your game. Oh, interesting. It actually has a section there for online play. That's cool. And there we go. Actually, it says there, tips for creating characters with your players when it's session 0 time. So there we go, yes. There definitely is a session 0. And again, if you've never run a game before, then this is all very, very useful. Giving you an idea of how to run the game. Again, lots of text to guide you. This is an important area here. Consent and comfort levels. Okay. At the end of the day, role-playing games should be fun for everybody involved. And then, again, more details on creating a game in the universe of Dune. As we've experienced, Modiphius games, they have so much information. Chapter 9, Allies and Adversaries. So this is going through non-player characters here. We can look at, look at some of the characters that we might happen upon from the various houses. So this is House Atreides. Duke Leto Atreides, Lady Jessica. I always find it interesting when you take a look at the pre-made characters, gives you an idea of how to create your own. And of course Paul Atreides. There we go. I said Gunny, didn't I? But it's Gurney. Gurney Halleck was the War Master. Gurney. There we go. Oh, hang on a sec. Oh, no, what? No, it wasn't. It's not. Was it Gurney or is it Duncan? Oh, that's a good one. Duncan was. Is that the Jason Momoa character? Oh, hang on. See, I'm thinking between the two. So, there's Duncan was Jason Momoa, and it was Josh Brolin, who is Gurney. There we go. And I think it was Patrick Stewart who played Gurney in the original. Am I right on that? We're having the discussion between, of course, you know, the 80s movie and the more recent iteration. We didn't have House Harkonnen, which I'm not going to get it by the name. Which one's Sting? Oh, it's going to be the Beast, isn't it? Dune Part 2 is due in November. Yes, indeed. Yes. Looking forward to it. We will hopefully spend a time as a group and put together our house and our characters. Prior to that. So again, we have other characters here. We have the Fremen. And then guides on creating non-player characters. There is a lot. And then various archetypes here. So examples. We have assassins, Bene Gesserit agents, criminals, courtiers. There's so many. In fact, there is a lot. There really is a lot. So this is very helpful. And then, as we've experienced in our sort of creation, we then have rival houses. So this gives you various examples of different houses that you could create. Wow. We have an entire universe of houses. And then right at the very end here, we do have an adventure. Harvesters of Dune. We won't look at that. We don't want to spoil it for any prospective players. So there we go. 330 pages of content in the core book. There's a lot to explore there. All right, so let's jump to the table. It's certainly a hefty book. Again, as we've discussed, if you are even the smallest amount interested in the Dune novels, the Dune movies, you like the idea of that world, then there is so much to discover in a role-playing game to sort of, you know, feed your geekdom of that particular subject. All right, let's take a look then at Agents of Dune. Not quite sure how much we can look at this because it is a campaign experience, and that being the case, we don't want to ruin it, we don't want to reveal anything. But let's unbox and see what it contains. Oh, okay. I always like something that says, read this first. We're not. We're going to skip right past that, because we don't want to ruin it. But gives us... It's on the top and not the bottom, yes. So it's telling us what is in here. And we have a quick guide. That's certainly helpful. All right. Let's see what this is. This is an adventure book. I'm liking the artwork on this. It's really nice. So this is a obviously a softback book, 116 pages. Again, it's nice and clear, nicely set out. Okay. I like how it's laid out and there's notes for the games master here when certain things happen to make additional notes that might lead into other areas. That's very handy. Okay. We then have some character profiles. So we got this nice art depicting the character, depicting the house banner. Wow, yeah. Again, lots of information. Their background, showing the character drive and the skills, and their focuses. And then this is a quick guide on the back, isn't it? So these are the individual character handouts for the various players. So what have we got? A martial noble, a charismatic noble, a Mentat advisor, a swordmaster, a Bene Gesserit spy master, this is a little handout here for adding threat and momentum uses. Something about spice harvesting by the Harkonnen. Oh, I like this. See, this is what I like. This is ooh. What is this? Is this a this is a guide? Well, it feels it's done in that sort of rough matte paper. It feels as if it's near enough should be in a travel agency. It's welcome to Arrakis. Here's your easy guide on the world. So it tells about water and deserts, transport and sandworms, and the people, and the two major cities. That's cool. I like that. We got some information as a handout. We got another handout, but we're not going to look at that in too much detail. Is there a support for playing a Fremen? Not that I've seen in here, but yes, you can absolutely play a Fremen. We got a load of counters here. So be interesting to see how they are used. Ooh. Ho ho ho. We have a bit of a map. Is this a map? Oh, okay. So, fold-out map here. Looking at production plant, it would seem. We have some furnaces. And this looks like it's a computerized topographical map. Maybe various harvesting locations. This is a dueling map. And what do we have on the back here? This is negotiations. And then we have some little standees, possibly for some of our counters there. We have some D20s, which of course are pivotal to the game. And we have some cards. Various accessories. A dart gun there. A moon necklace. That's talking about a hunter seeker. And that's giving us a quick guide on one of the characters. So that's all really nice. Again, we're not going to go into too much detail on it because ultimately people are going to play it, aren't they? What is the music? The music is from Tabletop Audio. They are my preferred source of role-playing and game music. You should go and check them out. They have a whole variety of different themes which can add that extra dimension to your role-playing game experience. Okay. Because music and ambience is an important part of the whole experience, isn't it? Eh? So there we go. So that was the core rules, and then this is the campaign experience. There are, of course, many additional books that you can get for the game. But I'm certainly going to enjoy sitting back and reading further, because as we can tell, there's a lot of information to go through. But I think we'll have enough to be able to create our house and create our characters. So in a few weeks' time, as we are going to be doing with many of the games that we've looked at over the past couple of months, we're going to be revisiting and basically creating a character live during the stream. I will make the character sheets available to you guys so that you can print them out, and then we can all go along together creating different characters for different gaming worlds. So have your dice and your pens and paper at the ready. So there we are. That was Dune Adventures in the Imperium by MODIPHIUS Entertainment. Now then. So we will have a show on Thursday. Thursday we're going to be playing a tabletop game. In fact, we're going to be revisiting one of the games that we played earlier this year. But we are going to be playing the expansion that adds a brand new board and extra places for us to visit. So if you are familiar with what we've been playing over the past couple of weeks, you might have a clue as to which game we are going to play, but that is going to be occurring on Thursday from 7 o'clock. Looks like a great game system. Yes, it does. I think it's very unique, Roger. It's the scale of this game is much, much greater than any of the other games we've seen. I think the idea of creating your planet world and your house, I think that's quite cool. And seeing the elements of role-playing within a greater sort of political structure, I think that's going to be interesting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to experiencing more and seeing what I can get from it. But it's certainly a great entry into the universe of Dune. Okay. So I think we'll call it a night there. Thank you so much for joining me. Look forward to seeing you on Thursday. Have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you then. But until next time, bye for now.